Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we've watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Hold! Right shoulder, hook! Hold! Turn, hook!
God save the United States of America. Be seated, please, and come to order.
Good morning. I'm delighted to be the one who can welcome you here to this special session of my court, the United States District Court for the District of Columbia. It's a special day for some of you who are about to become new citizens, and we're delighted that many of your family and friends could be here to witness this occasion. We only do this once a year here at the Archives in front of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and it's a special occasion that you were able to be here today to do this in this setting. I first would like to call on the Deputy Clerk of Court, Sarah Moser, who will be recognized by the court for the purpose of making a motion.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court. When I call your name, please stand, reply either here or present, and remain standing. Maria del Carmen Ortiz, El Salvador. Monica Susana Echevarria Corlet, Ecuador. Jonathan Rafael Martinez Almonte, Ecuador. Ramzi Mohammed Ibrahim, Ethiopia. Siddharth Patel, Kenya. Kay Tway Kine, Burma. Azar Al-Hassan Al-Shmar, Iraq. Nicholas Jacques Gomi, Senegal. Johanna Barrero, Colombia. Jeremy Jones Bellig IV, Cameroon. Pablo Omar Galarske, Chile. Ernesto Jose Cedon Rodriguez, Venezuela. William Meja Katrina, Peru. Sophia Mimi Helu, Ethiopia. Dmitry Malinkin, Russia. Anna K. Jody Johnson, Jamaica. Mark Stephen Philpott, the United Kingdom. Marie Elsrode, Switzerland. Harry Robin Hill, Australia. Carlos Alberto Machado Guzman, Colombia. Aster Helu Tesfaye, Ethiopia. Mary Moreno, Trinidad and Tobago. Ivas Baltazar Nuvillamor, Philippines. Nana Rebecca Smith, Liberia. Noel Abulala, Morocco. Your Honor, there are 25 applicants for naturalization. Each of the applicants have been examined by the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service, and the government has completed its investigation in each case. It has been determined that each applicant is eligible for naturalization at this time. I move that upon taking the oath of allegiance to the United States of America, each applicant present, having answered to his or her name, to include those prayers for name change, be granted naturalization as citizens of the United States of America.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mosier. Your motion is granted. If all of you will raise your right hand and repeat after me. I hereby declare on oath that I absolutely, entirely renounce and abjure all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince, potentate, state, or sovereignty, of whom or which I have heretofore been a subject or citizen, that I will support and defend the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I will bear arms on behalf of the United States when required by the law, that I will perform non-combatant service in the armed forces of the United States when required by the law, that I will perform work of national importance under civilian direction when required by the law, and that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion. So help me God. Congratulations. At this time, I'll ask the clerk of court to lead us all in the Pledge of Allegiance with our newest citizens, and I'll ask all your family and friends to stand and please join in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Congratulations. You may be seated. As you know, this is a special occasion because it's Bill of Rights Day. The Bill of Rights is very important in our constitutional scheme, and it is something that we live with every day in my court. I had the distinction of having been Chief Judge only about 2 months when the Supreme Court decided that all of the detainees at Guantanamo had a right to go forward in my court with habeas corpus petitions. So much of the last 2 years I've spent with 13 of my colleagues ruling on all of the habeas corpus petitions presented by the detainees at Guantanamo, because our Supreme Court decided that they had a constitutional right under the Bill of Rights to have their day in court and to have the court determine whether or not they were being held lawfully by the executive branch. One of the most significant things of our country is how we enforce the rights of everyone through our Bill of Rights, and ultimately the court's interpretations of the Bill of Rights have always been respected by both the President and Congress, and that's what we're going through now. We're about halfway through the process. We're still working on these every day. It's been a quite enlightening process to see, as we've ruled in each individual case, of whether the government has sufficient evidence, but it shows the power of the individual to enforce their rights in our court system, something that is not happening all over the world, but as we sit here in Washington, I see more and more judges coming through, visiting our courts from foreign countries. I'm delighted to have the opportunity to meet with many of those judges and to talk to them about how our system works and how our Bill of Rights protects our citizens and our people in our country. So this is a special day and a special occasion when we honor the Bill of Rights of our country. And I'm glad all of you who are new citizens could be here on a day like this. We're very honored to do this in this hall. The Archivist of the United States is a really unique individual. He is in charge, of course, of this building and of the National Archives. He's in charge of much more. He actually is in charge of all the presidential libraries, and we have a number of them now around the country. And he is the supervisor of all those presidential libraries, as well as all the collection of records of the United States government that are kept here and at an annex in Maryland and at other places. The archivist is a unique individual as well, because as he was telling me this morning, I met him last year when he was first named by President Obama, but he was confirming to me this morning that he's the first librarian to ever hold the position of archivist. He was head of the New York Library when he came down here, and he was uniquely qualified to become the Archivist of the United States. And so I'm delighted to recognize at this time David Ferriero, the Archivist of the United States.
Good morning and welcome to the National Archives. I congratulate our new citizens and welcome you especially. As I told you earlier this morning, for us here at the National Archives, this is our favorite day. We just love this ceremony. Thank you, Judge Lambert, once again for taking part in this special ceremony. You have just taken the oath of citizenship in a much hallowed setting. This rotunda is where we keep the nation's founding documents, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. They are known collectively as the Charters of Freedom because they are documents that created our nation and established how we govern ourselves. And they're on display every day for everyone to come and see for themselves the familiar words they have heard quoted so much, and famous signatures just as they were affixed by their owners. Now you have joined us as citizens. It is a distinctive status. Upon leaving the presidency, Harry Truman remarked that he was getting a promotion from public servant to citizen. So congratulations to all of you on your promotion to citizen of the United States of America. Witnessing ceremonies like this always stirs memories of my own forebears. I am the grandson of Italian immigrants and the great-grandson of Irish immigrants. Shortly before I arrived at the archives, I discovered the passenger lists that are here at the National Archives, and discovered that my grandfather, at age 15, arrived in Boston from Naples aboard the ship Commonwealth on March 22nd, 1903. And my grandmother, Antonia Giorgio, also from Naples, arrived on March 8th, 1909, aboard the Romantic. Many Americans have stories like mine, and you too have your own, and you will no doubt remember this day as a very special one. As I mentioned, you are in the presence of our nation's founding documents. Over my right shoulder is the Declaration of Independence, the same piece of parchment that our founding fathers signed on that hot summer day of 1776 in Philadelphia. They risked their lives, their families' lives, and all they owned in signing it because the King of England viewed them as traitors. Behind me is the Constitution, which remains the basis on which our federal government is structured. The Constitution's preamble provides the reasons and purposes for the Constitution, and it contains perhaps the most important words in any of our founding documents: we the people. Those three simple words capture the essence of our democracy. The Constitution has been amended 27 times. Several of those amendments explicitly extend rights granted in the Constitution itself to individuals who had been excluded from full participation in our democracy when the Constitution was adopted in 1787. There are amendments to abolish slavery, make former slave U.S. citizens, and grant them the right to vote. There is the amendment to grant women the right to vote, and another granting 18-year-olds the right to vote. Yet another amendment provides that the people, not their state legislators, will choose their U.S. senators. It is this document and its amendments upon which the United States Supreme Court has based so many landmark decisions that have changed the course of American history. And to my left is the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. They spell out the basic personal rights and freedoms that are guaranteed to every American and which you all exercise every day, including freedom of speech, religion, and the press, the rights to petition the government, the right to bear arms, and the right to due process of law in a speedy and fair trial. I hope you all get a chance to examine these three documents closely before you leave today. And I urge you to exercise your new granted rights and responsibilities and join in the American debates over the issues of the day. With us today is an individual who, like all of you, was not born in the United States, but as a naturalized citizen has been an active and important participant in our democracy. Elaine Chao was born in Taiwan and came to the United States with her parents at the age of 8, not able to speak a word of English, but she was a fast learner. She graduated from Mount Holyoke College in Massachusetts, then received a master's degree from Harvard Business School. She also studied at MIT, Dartmouth, and Columbia. Here in Washington, she has held a variety of important positions in and out of government. In the Reagan administration, she was Deputy Administrator of the Maritime Administration and Chair of the Federal Maritime Commission. In the first Bush administration, she was the Deputy Secretary of Transportation and Director of the Peace Corps. During the most recent Bush administration, she was the Secretary of Labor for President Bush's full 8-year tenure. In this capacity, she was the first woman of Asian descent to serve in a president's cabinet. Between Bush administrations, she served as President and Chief Executive Officer of the United Way of America and is credited with restoring the organization's public trust following a financial management scandal. She is currently a Distinguished Fellow at the Heritage Foundation, a position she also held after her United Way tenure. Please welcome Elaine Chao.
Thank you, David, for that very nice introduction. It just goes on and on. My bio was actually a lot shorter when I was younger. I also want to say you're in the presence of a very famous judge, justice of our very renowned judicial system. And so, Justice Lambert, I've heard so much about you, and I'm just so delighted that you're here as well. And then we have, of course, the citizens, the new citizens, relatives, friends, sponsors, and I understand there are a bunch of students here who are watching our democracy in action, and welcome to you as well. First of all, congratulations to the new citizens of the United States. This is the most momentous, joyful, and exciting day of your life. Surrounded by your family, your friends, your colleagues, this is a day that you'll always, always remember and always savor. This is the day that you became a part of this great experiment called America. You became an American citizen. After so many years of waiting and longing, the American dream is finally yours. And I understand this day and this longing because, as you've heard, I'm an immigrant too. Although our family was very happy, there was always that anxiety, that tenuousness, and that unsettledness that kind of hung over us. And the relief and joy that comes from being an American citizen, finally, and being able to claim this mantle of identity was a milestone in our lives. Now, because I was under the age of 18, I became a citizen when my parents obtained their citizenships. And I will always remember how special it was to have my father hand me my citizenship papers and telling me to treasure it with my life. My parents and my family, my parents and I had waited nearly, let me say that over again. My family and I had waited nearly 12 years to get our citizenship. And so in anticipation of today's ceremony, I did something that I seldom do. I actually took out my citizenship certificate and brought it with me to show you that you'll get one like this too. When we started our life in America, we had so little. We experienced so little. We expected so little. And certainly we never expected our lives to turn out the way it did. Like so many other immigrants, we were basically here to seek opportunity, and we were struggling to survive. My family's journey started with my father. He was a young man of great energy, determination, and dreams. And like most Chinese in the 20th century, my parents saw their native land torn by strife, civil war, political and economic upheaval, foreign invasions, natural disasters. And all my parents wanted was peace and stability. When my mother was 7 months pregnant with their third child, my father took a national examination once a year. That's it, national. And he scored not only #1, but broke all the previous records. Consequently, he was written up in the newspapers and received the opportunity from the Taiwan government to go abroad to America to study. Now, at that time, the opportunity to go abroad to America was so rare that it never occurred to this young couple to ask to delay my father's departure for 2 months so he can see the birth of his third child. They received the opportunity, he received the opportunity to come to America, and they grabbed it. And so even though my mother didn't know how long the family would be separated, she courageously urged my father to go to America to seek better opportunities for our family. So my father went ahead alone, and he arrived in America the day after Christmas. He had no relatives or friends in America, and for 3 months after his arrival in America, he heard nothing from my mother. Can you imagine how frantic he must have felt? He couldn't use a telephone because that was too expensive then. And as it turns out, what happened was my mother wasn't proficient in English, and so she copied some of the English alphabets wrong, and her letters were thus not delivered. Well, during his years alone, my father's father, my grandfather, passed away prematurely due to the stresses of events in his homeland. There were many discouraging times when my father felt that he could not go on. But it was the love and the encouragement of my mother, conveyed through these daily letters that took nearly 2 weeks to arrive, which sustained my father. After 3 long years of involuntary separation, my father finally obtained the documentation to bring my mother, my 2 sisters, and me to America. I was then 8 years old, as you have heard, and we came to America on a cargo ship because that was all the transportation that my father could afford. When we landed in New York, our little family of 5 lived in a small 1-bedroom apartment in Queens. My father worked 3 jobs to make ends meet, and my mother stretched every cent of his meager earnings. The initial years were very difficult, I don't have to tell you. We didn't speak the language. We had no family or friends in America. We couldn't get used to the American food. We were not used to eating bread, much less bread sandwiched with meat, like hot dogs or hamburgers or pizza. We've never even seen cheese before. We were used to eating daintily chopped vegetables with chopsticks, not these huge chunks of meat grabbed with one's hands. And we didn't understand the customs or the traditions of this new country. So one Christmas, someone sent my family a used pair of bookends. We've never seen bookends before. We thought the gift must have been damaged in transit, because there were two of them. So my little sister May, being so good-hearted and industrious, glued the two bookends together. And in our first year, October 31st was a frightful time. All these strange little children dressed as witches and warlocks, monsters and goats rang our doorbell incessantly, chanting this indecipherable chant that we couldn't understand. We didn't know what they wanted. We barely had enough food to feed the family for the week, much less any sweets or candy or snacks. So my big-hearted mother offered these little strangers slices of bread, a cup of cereal, hoping to have something to give these trick-or-treaters. While school wasn't any easier for me or my sisters, America was not as diverse as it is now, and we were the only Asians in our grades. And I remember being friends with a little Japanese girl because she was the only one that looked like me. And I can imagine how new arrivals would feel so homesick. I'm sure that my family's stories echo the stories that so many of you in this audience have experienced. So many of you I know have faced your own challenges and difficulties. And I'm here to let you know that things will get better, much better. When I got my American citizenship, it felt so special to be able to hold this little blue passport. This little blue passport in my hand at that time, and still now, gave me the protection of this great nation, which enveloped me wherever I went throughout the world. You've crossed a very special hurdle today, and as you learn more about America and become more familiar with this country, you will discover, if you have not discovered already, that this is a great country full of open, friendly, warm, helpful people. By earning your citizenship today, your life will have so many more opportunities, so many more possibilities to fulfill. And your children and your grandchildren will receive this gift of citizenship from you, and they have the potential to achieve even greater things. Who knows? Maybe one day, one of your descendants will become the next president of the United States. America's unique because regardless as to what we look like, we are Americans because we share the ideals of freedom and democracy. And people such as yourself, immigrants such as yourself, individuals with determination, ability, perseverance, diligence, are the ones who contribute so much to the economic and cultural richness of our country. So congratulations again. Welcome once again to being this very special status of being an American citizen. And God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you.
You see why she was the first Asian in the cabinet. Actually, I have decided after hearing her background and her record of government service and knowing a lot about her, that the time has come for us to amend our Constitution in this country. Right now, the Constitution does not allow a foreign-born to become president. I think it's time we work on a constitutional amendment. She would be my candidate. When the Constitution was adopted, we had an idea about foreign-born that's different than what we have today. Today, we are a nation of immigrants. We know we're a nation of immigrants, and we're very proud to have 25 new citizens who've chosen our country, who've decided to come here, who've decided to go through it the legal way, and we're delighted to have the opportunity to see you at the reception after this. I want to shake each of your hands and congratulate each of you on becoming new citizens. And I hope all of you will join us at the reception and shake their hands and tell them what a great day it is for them and for America. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
All rise. These proceedings are completed. This court stands adjourned.